Welcome to the Venly Expert Talks, where we aim to inspire Web3 builders with great stories from great minds. I'm your host, Alexandra Ahrens, and I'd like to remind you that you can always reach out to us on Twitter, Discord, or LinkedIn with ideas for the podcast and questions for our guests. Welcome to episode 33 of the Venly Expert Talks. Today I'm joined by George Grama, founder and CEO of AtlasNavi, and we'll be talking about blockchain adoption through mobile apps. So welcome, George. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
Thanks. So if we can just start out with your background in life and crypto and how you really got started down this path.
Sure. So we started off, we're a software development company, and our main focus for the last 12 years has been transportation apps, transportation mobility, especially. So we focused a lot on launching and operating taxi and rideshare apps, and also delivery apps. And at some point, we actually managed to offer this software as a service, as a white label version to a lot of different companies. So not only did we launch our own apps and operated them, but we started licensing that a few years back. And, let's say 4 years ago, we looked at the space and we said, well, what's next in transportation? What can we innovate in? And we looked at the mobile navigation apps and realized there hasn't really been a lot of innovation over the last, say, 7 to 8 years. And the current navigation apps don't really make use of all the processing power that's in the smartphones right now, and all the latest algorithms in computer vision. So that's how we said, well, we can do something here, and we can build an app that's that gathers a lot more data and can reroute drivers a lot better, in our opinion, compared to existing navigation apps. So that's kind of how we got to AtlasNavi.
Okay. And do you have any experience with crypto or Web3 before this?
Yes, we built our own blockchain, I think about 5 years ago in 2017. So we've been in the blockchain space for about 5 years. At the time, again, we were looking at what can be done and what's next in the transportation space. And we realized autonomous vehicles are coming. And at the time we thought, 5 years from 2017, which would be about today, we would have loads of autonomous vehicles on the streets.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, didn't really happen. So, but we did end up building a blockchain solution. So basically making use of the decentralization that's specific to blockchain to validate access to autonomous vehicles and encrypt the data exchange between one vehicle to another and one vehicle to a smart city. So we built that solution. We invested into autonomous vehicles. We got to a point where we were testing them and demoing them, but it was way too early. So that's why, 2 years later, we kind of looked at, okay, can we build something that everyone can have access to? And that was basically AtlasNavi. So, about 5 years now into blockchain. And, hopefully a lot more from now on.
Yes. What was the kind of motivator behind building your own blockchain as well?
I mean, 2017, it seems like ages ago in blockchain. So, it was definitely something that you didn't have that many options in terms of blockchains. And the ones that you had at the time weren't very efficient for what we were trying to do. We didn't build it from scratch. So we used a solution from IBM. It's called Hyperledger, but we built everything on top of that, basically. So the general architecture, we took it from Hyperledger, and then we built on top of that. And it worked really well, to be honest. We managed to demo it and have a working product in a sense. But the actual distribution of that product was a problem because you still don't have any autonomous vehicles on the streets.
Yeah. Yeah. Yet. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe you can go through, you kind of touched on how the decentralization part of Web3 is really what's helpful for this. Can you go into detail on that?
Sure. So for us, our main focus was around decentralization, mainly relating to cryptography and access to a certain asset. So validation of access, if you want. And the traditional approach in Web 1 and Web 2 is that you have a central server somewhere. It could be in the cloud, it could be on premise, that validates who has access to certain accounts, certain operations on a software product. With blockchain, you can kind of, you don't have to have that central database. And that central database and server, they can be hacked. And the big problem that you have with autonomous vehicles is that they're 2-ton vehicles that can go at 100 miles an hour. If they get to be without a driver, so without anyone, pushing the brakes. So if you have, a hacker, let's say, could get access to that server, he could theoretically control, if it's a centralized server, he could theoretically control all the cars that are, available and connected to that server. And we thought this was a very big problem. So in a sense, our main objective was to take away that centralization and make it a decentralized structure. And by doing that, we had every car act as a node for our blockchain. So every car would hold a copy of the ledger that sits on the blockchain, and it would validate, access to all the other cars as well. And the database, and it's serverless, and the database is actually, decentralized. So, it would be theoretically impossible to hack because there's no central server where all the information and access sits. So it was a perfect solution, we thought, for something that could be a very big problem in the future. And I'm sure other companies are looking at this as well.
Definitely. Cool. Very cool. So looking at AtlasNavi, the app specifically, I know that you've got a drive to earn function in there. Why was that something you developed, and how does that fit in?
So the actual app, it can be used as a standalone navigation app. And we use a very reliable mapping provider to actually, get all the traffic data and everything we need. We didn't start off from scratch, but the drive to earn model kind of came along when we were talking to drivers and, just showing them the early version of the product. And we were saying, well, would you use this app with the camera on? Because the AtlasNavi relies a lot on the camera on the back of your phone facing the road, or a dash cam in your windshield. And we process that video feed in real time on the device, on the phone, to analyze it for potholes, accidents, road closures, traffic in each lane, available parking spaces, accidents, police cars, a lot of information that you could gather by looking at something. Whereas the traditional navigation apps only take your GPS location, and based on that, they can see how fast you're moving and whether you're in traffic or not. With us, it's like having eyes on the road. But the problem was that not all the drivers wanted to use, the camera functionality, even though, it allows you to record the video, allows you to share it with your friends if you're seeing something interesting, or if you see, something funny in traffic, it doesn't matter. But that wasn't enough for most drivers to use and turn on their camera, on which we rely quite a lot. So we said, if we could convince even a very small percentage of users to turn on their cameras, we get so much information by analyzing these video feeds. It's 100 times more data per mile than competing navigation apps. We realized we have to incentivize them. So we said, if you drive with the camera on, during certain hours, especially during rush hour, then that's when we need the most information in the city. We don't care, and we don't really reward anyone driving on the highway at, 100 miles an hour. There's no traffic. There's no, not a lot of incidents. That data is not that valuable. But someone driving in the city, if they spot some available parking spaces, that's useful to all the other drivers. If they spot an accident or a road work or something else, that's useful to all the other drivers, especially at rush hour. So we came up with a drive to earn model where we compensate, or we sort of reward drivers who drive at certain times, especially during rush hour and in the city. And that's usually, the rideshare, the taxi drivers, the delivery drivers, and those are kind of our former clients. A lot of apps that we've built in the past were exactly for these industries. So it was easy to kind of get feedback and see if they would be willing to do so. And most of them are, because they're driving anyway. So our model for Drive to Earn is not to reward people, so that they can pay off for the gas. Like, drivers are not going to make a lot of money, huge amounts of money from this, but it is going to be something that can add up. And especially if they give data to the network and to all the other drivers, relevant data through the camera, we thought that's worth rewarding. On the flip side, we make our revenues from premium features. So the app is free to use, but we make our revenues from premium features inside the app. So the more valuable data we have, the more likely is that, we find better routes, more drivers are joining AtlasNavi, and some of them are going to opt in for the premium features. And now, our main issue is to balance those things out. How much do you pay in rewards and how much do you actually make in revenues from those premium features? And that's still an open question at the moment. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I know, so you mentioned before we started recording that you guys just launched your beta. Can you maybe share a little bit about that?
Sure. So we launched the beta version just because we started to build a community around our product and everyone was kind of anxious, and we made a promise that we were going to launch by the end of June. So it was already, we were a week late, and we said we got to launch something, and we did for both iOS and Android. And it blew up. In, I think, 72 hours, we had 18,000 drivers signed up. And then now we're at close to 23 or 24,000 drivers signed up, which is absolutely mind-blowing because our community was fairly small. It was under 2,000 people. And it just went from one person to the next, and they started recommending it. We had friends calling us and saying, I got, 5 people asking me to download this app. So it's definitely a good sign. And we're right now bombarded with feedback, which is very useful. So we're working on fixing those, but very, very good sign. And, we're very thankful to our community for spreading the word about AtlasNavi from the get-go. Yeah.
Definitely. Cool. Very cool. So let's kind of move into the more general idea of kind of blockchain and Web3 for all apps. So what other use cases? So the navigation, as you described it, makes complete sense, right? So what other use cases can you see for blockchain within kind of the current mobile app market?
I think a lot of applications have focused on the financial use cases. So definitely decentralized finance has been something that a lot of people have built on, but you can go way beyond that. So obviously last year's craze around NFTs and, owning digital assets and having that ownership actually, stored in a blockchain is a very interesting use case. However, I think a lot of projects have tried to capitalize on that and that alone without an actual utility to their product. But blockchain, in a sense, is good for a couple of things. It's decentralized, it's trustless, and it can confirm ownership over certain things, such as digital assets or access to certain things. I see a lot of focus in the future to use blockchain for cybersecurity. So accessing and maybe having something like a single sign-on plugin that's stored on the blockchain, and it just uses blockchain to authenticate you in different services. And then having control over your data, the privacy aspects that a lot of regulators are very focused on nowadays. Who has access? Are you selling my data? Are you monetizing it somehow that I don't know how? Can I delete my account? All of these can be easily controlled through blockchain access. And I think, in a sense, we're biased because we have built a product on blockchain that was focused on the cybersecurity industry. But I do see the biggest advantage, and I think most people, a lot of developers in the future are going to build applications that relate to the decentralization of aspect of blockchain for cybersecurity. So the risk of you getting hacked, is 1,000 times lower if you use a blockchain solution for accessing your database. So I think that's the main use case in the future. Obviously, you do have a lot of models nowadays, like play to earn, move to earn, or drive to earn first. But I think some of them are a fad. Some of them are going to keep going. If their economy is sustainable, then that's fine, and they might become big successes in the market. But I think a lot of applications will still focus on the cybersecurity angle if they want to have real utility, and that's why financial transactions was one of the first use cases for blockchain, right? So just the ability to send money, very cheaply and across borders with no real issues, or you don't have to go to the bank. That was great. But now I think we're moving away from that into products that we have everyday use for on our mobile apps that could benefit from blockchain. And most of those implementations, I think, are going to be related to cybersecurity, in my opinion.
Okay. Do you know of any others that are currently working on it or are in use that are doing it well or maybe not well? Or
I think there's loads of initiatives, and it's quite hard to give specifics. Like, there's so many projects on blockchain. I think there's over 20,000 different tokens and cryptocurrencies right now. And, there's people building exchanges. There's people who, are building all sorts of things. But you look at products like OpenSea, for example. They didn't exist, 2 years ago. And they blew up with the whole NFT craze. There's so many different projects that are trying to make it in the blockchain space. It really reminds me of, the 2000 era in the internet, the .com era, right? With so many people trying to build something that was going to make them rich, first of all, and then second of all, that would have a real utility. But I think, similar to that period, a lot of the projects are not sustainable in the long term, and that was a focus for us. We wanted to build something that had real utility in the future. It wasn't just something where you could pay and someone makes money off of that and that's it. So for us, it was a real focus to have a business that will be around 10 years from now. And there's more and more people building those sorts of businesses, and I think that's kind of pointing towards more mature ecosystem of blockchain startups. But right now there's thousands or tens of thousands of different blockchain products, I think. And I was looking, and then this is a very good example, I think. I was looking at different projects in the past, and one of them was a peer-to-peer insurance. And I think that's really fascinating. The fact that in the great application of the blockchain technology, the fact that you can have people contributing to an insurance fund, but then that insurance premium is not completely lost at the end of the year, let's say, if there were no incidents, right? So you can have a pool of people, even if whether they're friends or just people who don't know each other, can pool funds together, and if something happens, they can have someone inspect the damage or whatever happened to your car, to your house, and certify that a certain amount has to be paid, but the rest is still left in that pool. So it kind of, compared to traditional insurance companies who make a lot of money from the on unused premiums, if you want to call them that, this really has the potential to disrupt that industry. And there's at least 2 or 3 different projects that are looking at that and are building solutions on the blockchain for that. And I think that's very fascinating, and it could disrupt the insurance industry, depending on how the regulators react to that. So we'll see.
Always comes down to that, I guess.
Yeah.
So when you guys were building the navigation, you were really focused on kind of utilizing tech that isn't quite yet available to the mass market. Is that kind of where we need to focus, or is there uses now?
It depends, really. I think, we as a company had a tendency to always kind of look a little bit too far into the future, and that's kind of been a problem in the past. But it depends how much you want to innovate. If you just want to build a product that's useful right now and for the next 2 or 3 years, and you can have easier access to consumers or users, you don't have to really change things around, you can build a business off of that for sure. But if you want to disrupt an industry, if you're seeing, a lack of innovation over years and stagnation in terms of, new features being added and what the consumers want, for us, it was quite obvious once we studied the market and once we looked at the user forums for, the existing navigation apps and what they wanted. There's features that they were requesting, 5 years ago, and they're still not in there, and they seemed like natural features that a navigation app should have. And we were like, why doesn't that exist? And, big companies react slow. Small companies and startups can disrupt big industries. So for us, it was worthwhile looking into the future and using technologies that are, barely available today, kind of cutting edge, even in terms of the processing power that the latest smartphones have. But we were like, if we can solve this, we were going to have a business for the next 10 years. And, we have a competitive advantage that we're moving fast, and we know, we seem to know what the users want. So why not build it? It seemed natural. But you can definitely build a business, by taking existing products and moving them onto the blockchain if there's a real advantage in using blockchain, speed, less transaction fees, smaller transaction fees, and less trust or less, you can sign documents if you want on the blockchain, and that's probably a perfectly good business. But if you want to, disrupt the insurance industry, like I was saying earlier, you've got quite a bit of innovation, and probably regulatory hurdles to go through before you can launch your product. But once you do, the sky is the limit. So for us, that was kind of the vision. We wanted to build something that was out of the ordinary. We didn't want to do it just for, the potential financial reward that, building a business comes with.
Mm-hmm. Do you see this kind of ecosystem as being nurturing to new projects, or do you find that it's something where to make that kind of development like you guys have, it's much easier if you've got that established industry? And
no, I think blockchain is still in its infancy. It's mm-hmm. definitely starting to mature for sure. There's a lot of investment funds that are looking at this. There's a lot of big companies that are trying to innovate, and they're looking at the potential of it. But I think it's a great space for an entrepreneur to enter. I think, it's something where right now you have a lot of developers who are willing to help. You have a lot of open source code that's readily available, a lot of tools that you can kind of learn from and build your own solution. It's much easier now than it was 5-7 years ago, definitely. And from the funding perspective, the community, the crypto communities are very much involved in the project. So if you want to do a token sale and, you want to convince people that, look, I'm going to build this, I want to do some sort of a token or a crowd sale, would you invest in this? They're a lot more open compared to, traditional VCs. It's a lot easier to raise money with blockchain projects, provided that, you have some sort of a team and an idea of the product, maybe even a prototype. The more you have, the easier it is to raise funds. But I think the big difference compared to building a traditional, software product is you have a very much involved community in this. So once you get started and you get, a few members of your community involved in it, they're advocates for you. They're, your ambassadors. They would talk about you. They would, they're involved in the project. So not only do you get, so-called investors, or people who purchase your token in advance, let's say, but you get people who will promote your product for free. So, and someone who's dedicated in, for example, with us, providing us feedback. It's very valuable. It's a lot easier. I'll definitely recommend it. The ecosystem is developing constantly, and it's got that, appeal to it. It's the new thing, the new technology, and it's getting adoption, obviously. So, I think it's great building a startup in the blockchain space. Absolutely.
Okay. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Yeah.
So you mentioned community. Do you feel that community building is just as important with a mobile app as it is with any other Web3 project. I mention that only because, as you said, you did have quite a lot of response already without putting a lot of effort in, I guess, on that aspect. I mean,
yeah. I think definitely, and it's the building a community is incredibly important, especially for a mobile app. I mean, there's thousands of mobile apps being released every month on the app stores. It's very difficult to capture the attention of the users and having them install and keep the app on their phone and actually use it. Right? It might be a little bit easier on the web. So just building a product that's web friendly and accessible from any browser. But if you need a navigation app, then you have to have it on your phone. So I think it depends on the product. Obviously, it's a lot easier. You can open any sort of mobile app on the go. The community aspect, I think the communication with the community is completely different than with a traditional startup. So we're actually comparing this the other day. We were looking at other navigation apps, and they would engage with their followers and whatnot. Once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. With us, it's constant communication. There's constantly people asking, can we have this in the app? Can we? Oh, this doesn't work. When are we going to see the next update? It's much more personal in a way and much more direct. And I think the crypto community likes that and wants that. And it's totally different than, posting something on Facebook, like an official corporate announcement, and then getting 5 likes for that, So definitely community plays a big, big role. And ultimately, I mean, you're building this product for them, for people who want to use this. And if they find it useful and they see that you're communicating with them and you're building some sort of trust, they will promote it later on, and that's kind of what you want. You want them to to spread it to other users and use it and get honest feedback. If it's not a good product, they'll tell you. They have no filter, so that's also good.
Yeah, I guess it is for feedback.
Yeah.
Cool. Good. Then I guess I want to switch it to the dark side, because before the recording, you mentioned the issue of quote unquote Ponzi schemes kind of within Web3. So, can you tell us kind of what that looked like? And,
Sure. I mean, we've seen a lot of projects in recent months, especially, who are, the whole play to earn and move to earn industries, if you want to call them that. They're a lot of them are called Ponzi schemes, and the reason for that is that they're requiring a purchase on behalf of the user. So the user has to buy something, whether it's an NFT or access to, the app or whatever, and then they pay out some rewards over a certain period of time based on the actions of those users. And obviously, that's the whole business model, right? So people buy, shoes, and they virtual shoes, and they go out running and they earn some rewards for running. And the whole, move to earn initiative is about making you healthier, supposedly. So, you go out, you run, and it incentivizes you to run. That's great. But you have to make a purchase in order to earn some rewards. And then sometimes, especially in the beginning with most of these projects, the rewards are very high. So you see, people going for a jog for 10 minutes, and then, they earn $60. And you're like, how is that possible? Where's that money coming from? And it's usually from new users joining the ecosystem, especially in the beginning. But what happens over time is that without other sources of income, or without a way to monetize the information that you're getting from those people, in this case, running, you don't really have a business model. You're constantly relying on new users joining and paying something for those virtual shoes. And then from those rewards, you take something and you give it as a reward to someone else, to the previous users. And that's basically the definition of a Ponzi scheme, constantly relying on new users joining and paying a fee. We were very scared of that. So our model was, we don't want to be labeled as a Ponzi scheme. We don't want to be, relying on that. We want to build a sustainable economy. We had a specialized company doing the whole app economy, and they did an audit of our whole economy in the app. How many rewards are we paying out? How much does it cost to, the premium features and all that? But for us, it's completely different because we do actually have other sources of income in terms of the app has a utility in and of itself. Like you don't have to pay anything to navigate with it. And, that actually costs us money, right? When a free user just uses it and navigates with it. But it's fine because some of the data they give us, which is, aggregated and anonymized, we can use that for getting more users into the application and getting them to, some of them will pay for premium features at some point. So the whole Ponzi scheme element was not really present because we're not asking people to pay anything for us for using the app, and we're not relying on revenues, just from people joining. So I think, these are fads for sure. And, a few months down the line, you see most of these projects kind of, going down significantly, 99% down in token value, company value, user base, all of that. So, but it definitely hurts the ecosystem and, the developers who are building, because a lot of users are losing faith in the projects. They're being, they see someone on YouTube saying, "Oh, I went for a half an hour run today. I made $120." Some of them will ask, "Well, how is that possible?" Like, okay, maybe it happened for you, and I believe you, but surely that can't be, for everyone. Like, something's got to give, So at some point, some people are going to be disappointed. And the problem is that with some of these apps, some users have invested $2,000 for a pair of virtual shoes, right? And like just one pair. And if you wanted to earn rewards, you had to purchase a pair. So they invest $2,000, and then, a month and a half later, they're making 20 cents for, a 2-hour run. So they're not getting their money back. And it hurts the environment. It hurts, other developers who are trying to build, good projects, and definitely hurts the community, but everyone's free to build whatever they want. And as long as, there's people out there who are, analyzing these projects, and they do say, "Oh, this is it looks like a Ponzi scheme, let's analyze it, let's look at it." But there are a lot of others who have a financial benefit from promoting these apps, and they'll keep promoting them. So yeah.
Do you feel like maybe mobile apps, especially like the move to earn, for example, are in a unique situation that maybe just desktop apps don't have that same kind of access, or yeah? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think there is obviously, it's, move to earn is definitely on mostly on mobile. I think it's only on mobile, to be honest. But
makes sense.
I think it's not just that. I think it's some play to earn games who have collapsed, like House of Cards, if you want to call it that. But it's just, it doesn't matter if it's a mobile app or a web-based project. But with the mobile app, you have the attention of that user. You can send him a push notification, and he'll pick up the phone and say, "Oh, if I go out for a run now, I'll earn this much." Or if I go out, there's apps that do geo mining, so you have to go to specific places and you earn some sort of coins if you do that. And they have no real utility. You just have to go to certain places, and once you do that, you pay something, you pay a monthly subscription to have access to the app, and sometimes you earn, $20 or $5 a month, but you pay, $50 a month, or most of the users pay that, and some actually make money from it. But it's a numbers game, and I do think mobile apps are more prevalent in these sort of projects, because you have the attention, you have the user, he has the smartphone always on him. You can send him a notification. You can get his attention a lot easier than, on the desktop, where you just send, an email or maybe a browser notification. But yeah. So definitely, I think a lot of developers are focusing on mobile apps just because it's a lot easier to capture the attention of the user in the long term once he has your app installed.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned also that you guys had a specialized company come in and really look at your economy. Is that the best way, only way that entrepreneurs and projects can avoid falling into this, or what would you recommend?
I think if you're trying to build an economy that's relying on users paying something for some services and then earning money, especially when it comes to the earning part, I think you should definitely seek advice outside of your organization, because no matter how many Excel sheets or other tools that you use to simulate how your app economy is going to look like, in our case, going to a specialized company was the best thing. And they did an audit. They're advising us. They're monitoring how the rewards are being paid out, and if at some point the whole app economy can be in danger of collapsing, let's say, and you can see that 3-6 months in advance, you're paying out way too much compared to what you're making. If there's not enough revenue coming in, at some point you're gonna go bankrupt. So for us, it was very important. I would suggest it to anyone because you're subjective. You're building your own product. You're looking at it and you're like, oh no, this would work. I think 50% of the users are gonna pay for this premium feature. And then if you go to another company who actually specializes in this, they're gonna say, well, no, it's actually less than 5% who actually pay for a premium feature in an app ever. So I think it's very, very good to get outside advice, and they're like an auditor. So they look at everything more objectively than you do. And I would definitely recommend it, especially if it's a, X to earn model. So if it's play, move, drive, whatever, if it's play, move, drive to earn model, then definitely get, if the users are earning something by doing something in your app, you got to make sure your app is sustainable in the long term, your app economy.
Yeah. Okay. So if you were to give some advice to people building a project, starting a project, whatever it may be, that they're specifically wanting to disrupt that current modern industry, what advice would you give them?
Put together a team, get some people together and start.
Just do it. Okay.
Just do it. Kind of just do it. Yeah, because everyone's going to make mistakes. I mean, we made loads. One of the biggest mistakes that we did was that we constantly waited to launch something. And this always happens with us. I think we're perfectionists. We want to, we're afraid of, the shame that comes with an unfinished product. And startups shouldn't be like that. And especially, crypto startups. If you have something that you think is valuable, build an MVP, version of it, just show it to people and just put it out there. And if people like it, they'll start supporting it. You'll start attracting partners, and it's going to be a lot easier from then on to move and improve on it. And you're never going to satisfy, the users. I mean, we're seeing that right now. So, there's people who are not happy that, X functionality is not available in there. And yeah, it's coming next week, but, they're impatient. So, but it's okay. It's very good feedback, and it's very much okay to put something out there that is not finished yet, and just as long as you say it, obviously. So yeah, I think the most important thing is just start, research, make sure it's something that you would like to work on for the next 5 years, and don't just do it for the money, because it might not come. So. Yeah, if you're just doing it for the money, well, yeah, I mean, it's usually true. If you're just motivated by money, you're not going to build something that's of real use to people. You're just going to try and charge them as much as possible. So that's probably not going to work.
No. Build something you believe in. Just do it. Just start. Make constant improvements, and communicate with your audience. If I can sum it up, is that right?
That's very good. Yes.
Okay. Cool. Perfect. So at this point, I'm going to start wrapping us up. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Can I say the name of the company that we work with for or
Sure.
Should I just say, should I just talk about our project?
Yeah, you can plug this company as well. Sure.
Okay, so at AtlasNavi, it's a drive-to-earn AI navigation, makes use of your phone camera to interpret the road ahead and reroute other drivers on faster and safer roads if something is detected from that camera. It's a new way to navigate, and our whole app economy, the drive-to-earn model, where we actually pay out rewards to drivers who provide as much data as possible. The whole app economy was built by machinations.io, and they're really good at the whole app economy design and audits and all that. So we're very thankful for that.
Awesome. Yeah, and this is normally where I would ask who we should have on Expert Talks next. Maybe you want to plug someone from that team to have on?
Sure. Yeah, I can introduce you to Mihai, who's the CEO of that company, and I'm sure he'll be happy to talk to you about this, actually.
Perfect. All right. Well, then thank you so much. Very interesting stuff here, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
If you like today's episode, please rate, follow, or subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. And if you really like our content, join our Discord community, where there's always good conversation, exciting news, and live AMAs. Thanks for listening.